All right. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you. Just we're grateful for you carving out some time to be with us and to get excited with us about this summer. My name is Amit Weitzer. For those of you who I haven't had an opportunity to connect with yet, and you'll have an opportunity in a minute to connect with all the rest of our staff who are on the call today. So we'll go to the next slide here. Randy, can you move us to the next slide?
I am trying. It's being a little difficult.
Oh, no worries. Luckily, the next slide is just me talking about the agenda, so I can do that.
For some reason, it just doesn't want to go. Hold on one second. I'm so sorry. Welcome to the wonderful world of high technology.
No worries. So just talking us through the agenda, a little bit of tech housekeeping. So what we're asking that folks stay on mute for the presentation so we can move quickly, we can get you the information that you're all looking for. You can meet the staff who are going to be supporting the summer, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers and still get everybody out in time for dinner and everything that needs to happen this evening. As you have questions, if you know you have them now or they come up as you're listening to us, if you can message them to Randy in the chat, she'll be organizing them and then moderating our Q&A at the end of the call. So they can go straight to her at any time during the presentation. We're gonna introduce you to our team in a minute. We're gonna talk you through the high level information guiding our COVID-19 planning and plans this summer. Some highlights that are also on our website as of yesterday. So after this call, you can always go to our website to see where we are and get updates. We're going to tell you a little bit more about the summer. Maskiru is here, our summer leadership team, to talk with you about some of the other things going on. And then we'll go into Q&A. All right. I'm just going to make sure. It looks like there's some other people in the waiting room. Sorry about that. All right. And we can continue on. Okay, so we wanted to start by just, this is going to be a lot of information about the pandemic, about COVID, about health and safety, our plans and protocols, but we wanted to start by just taking a deep breath and getting excited together, recognizing that there are 123 days. I don't know if this was when we made this slide or that's actually today, but no matter what, we're close to 123 days before we gather together. And there's going to be a lot of work that our team is going to do and that you're going to do to make sure we can get there together safely. But we're thrilled and we're so looking forward to it. And we wanted to create a little space just to honor that and then get into the rest of the content. All right, next slide. All right, so again, my name is Amit Weitzer. I know that a couple of folks just trickled in since we started. I'm the executive director of Tavor, and just grateful to have you all here with us, learning, getting excited. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm excited to pass it over to Dr. Donna Schnazi to introduce herself as a member of our health team.
Hello, I'm Donna Schnazi. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the camp doctor and a Tavor alum, as is my husband, and our kids will be at Montana for the first time this summer. So looking forward to meeting you guys.
All right, Donna Newmark.
Hey everyone, I'm Donna Newmark. I also use she and her pronouns. I am speaking to you from a lovely day in San Francisco. I will be coming to camp this summer. It will be my 10th or 11th, well, I think my 10th summer in the MARP. And I will be there for the entire summer so that we have consistency and history. I went to camp in the 70s. My kids went to camp in the 2000s to 2011, I think was their last year. And I've been there back there since 2011. So I'm really excited to be getting us there safely. I love this picture that's on the screen. I love that sign. I love Tavor. So.
Beautiful. Thank you, Donna. All right, Randy.
Oh, I forgot I was actually speaking. I'm having so many technical issues. Thank you all for bearing with me. New computer. I am Randy Lubratich. I use she, her pronouns. I have been at camp for this is my 4th summer. I am your communications coordinator, and I'll have lots to tell you about later with some of the great things that are happening for camp and great ways of bringing new families into camp.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, and now to pass it over to Maskiru 2021, we're going to start with Ariel.
Hi everyone, I'm Ariel. I use she, her pronouns. I'm Roche this summer, and I started in 2008. So this is a lot of years going to camp, and I'm gonna pass it on to Hannah, who's right next to me.
Yes, hello, my name is Hannah. I use she, her, hers. I am the Hinuch this summer. I also started in 2008, though just a couple weeks before Ariel, because we were different sessions, so I went earlier. And I am so excited to be with everyone in community this summer. And I will pass it to Jane.
Hi, I am Jane Mintz. I am part of Team Techni this year. I've been going to camp since 2011, and I am so excited to be back. And I'll pass it on to my co-Techni, Noam. Oh, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Jane's co-Techni, Noam. I use he, him pronouns. I've been going to camp since 2010, and yeah, I'm super excited to be on Maski route and back at camp.
Next slide, Randy. All right, so sort of taking a step back, and some of you have heard me say this to you on phone calls and meetings and other spaces. But we have been essentially, planning for this summer since we made the difficult, heartbreaking call that we did last summer to not be able to gather together in person. We have been so lucky to be able to learn with and from the leadership of the camps that operated successfully and safely in 2020, and to be involved constantly with our peers in the nonprofit Jewish camping world in the Midwest and in the country. With our Habonim Machanot peers, with the American Camping Association, and of course with our Camp Tavor health team, and thinking together and working together to develop plans that we believe can bring us all together safely. So we've got some guiding assumptions, and I'll talk us through them. And of course, if any of these change, this would be a reason for us to come back together and reconsider, and of course, communicate, openly with you throughout that process. So I'm just going to make my screen a little bit bigger because it's small. So the first is that we believe we can do it. We saw that camps did operate successfully last summer. And we are basically adapting their playbook to 2021. And while obviously the landscape has changed, we know a lot now that we didn't know then. Their programming and their plans were extremely conservative, and we're erring on the side of that playbook. And if we get reliable, important information that helps us become a little bit more flexible, we will. But we want to start with what we know worked, and so that's what we're building from. So the second is that we believe we'll be allowed to open. We know that the state of Michigan did allow residential camps to open last summer. We're not expecting that to be different. If that changes, that will of course, impact our planning, but we believe we'll be able to open, that we'll have the support of state and local health authorities in doing so properly. We're also building our plans based on the assumption that our full community will not be vaccinated. We did get some exciting news last week, which is that the CDC and the sort of National Authority on who gets vaccinated when has decided that camp staff who are in direct contact with young people and staff and community members because of their work qualify to be eligible for vaccination as a part as childcare providers and educators. We know that will look different as far as implementation in each state, in each county, in each city. So it doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow. And I've already talked with Mosque Root and our staff about that. But what is likely is that all of our staff will be able to be vaccinated ahead of the summer. We're going to be advocates for them and support them in doing so. And that's wonderful to know. We also know it's extremely unlikely that our campers will be vaccinated and that everybody in their lives will be vaccinated. So again, we're really relying on that playbook from 2020. Vaccination will be an incredible additional layer of protection and support for those of us who have the ability to be vaccinated ahead of the summer, and our safety plan isn't reliant on it. It's just an additional layer of protection. Let's see. COVID-19 will exist and it might be present at camp. Our health team will speak a little bit more to this in questions and answers, but we're going to do everything in our power to work to ensure or to try to ensure that COVID does not come to camp. And we're going to do that through asking particular behaviors of families and staff ahead of coming to camp, having particular screening and testing protocols in place as people enter the camp bubble, organizing our bubble in a particular way. But we all know that it's possible. And so what we're doing is we're building a plan based on a pod structure where if there were to be somebody who were infected, it wouldn't be large scale spread. It would be contained to a specific pod. We'd be able to treat the people infected or the person infected, and camp would be able to continue. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Some of the specifics of that are still in the works, but we also want to be really honest about what we're able to promise and what we're not able to promise. And the other piece here is that testing will be available and affordable. So this is the big piece that's very different from last year. One of the pieces, we're still figuring out the specifics of our testing plan and the way in which testing tools will help to keep us healthy and safe this summer. We have some of that figured out and some of it's in the works, and we'll talk about it. All right. Okay, so I'm going to use some language. We've probably heard it in different contexts, schools, and otherwise maybe used slightly differently. So just so we're all on the same page, we'll talk a little bit about our bubble. So the bubble is our full camp community. We recognize it's an imperfect bubble. We know that there will be deliveries. We know that we will, with the exception of Donna Newmark, who's extraordinary and staying with us all summer, we know there will be a rotation of healthcare staff who are keeping our community safe over the summer. Perhaps some other exceptions here or there of folks who are coming in and out for particular jobs. But in general, there's going to be extremely limited coming and going. And we're working to keep our bubble safe and secure. And we've done a lot of work to simplify our session structure, to hire differently, so that the folks who are coming to spend the summer with us are spending the summer with us. And so we're excited about that. Inside the bubble, we basically have sort of two different structures to be aware of. So the first, as far as campers are concerned, is the Sarif, the cabin, or the Ohel, the tent. We are not planning right now to significantly adjust the capacity of those bunks from a typical summer. What we're assuming is that a bunk is going to basically be a household, exposed to one another, sharing space with one another, unmasked with one another. That'll be about 8 to 10 people, including the SEVIT or the counselors who are responsible for that group. And that's sort of the smallest unit of camp that a camper will experience. And we're going to start at that smallest level when we first get together, when people arrive at that first day. So this is a group that's going to, of course, sleep together. That's where, beds are, use the bathroom and showers together, go swimming, eat, all of those sort of critical, intimate things that have to happen in proximity will be with your bunk. A pod, for the purposes of the language we're using, could be a bunk, but it could also be, it could be 2 bunks, it could be 3 bunks, 4 bunks, it could be a whole age group, depending on sort of where we are in the scaling of our pod for the summer and in our determining of camp and who's at camp, and the fact that we don't have COVID at camp. So we're going to start the summer at the smallest unit, which is that bunk, possibly 2, with the hope of then scaling to at least that age group, so that at least the age group, shechva or kfutza is some language that we've also used, that ideally that full group will get to the place where they're a pod together and can do all the things together that I mentioned, be unmasked together, enjoy one another. We say this in another slide, but I just kind of want to get ahead of it now to kind of clarify that a pod or your bunk is different from who your friends are, who your connections are, and who you will be engaged in programming with. While we will have to limit who you're unmasked with and in close proximity with unmasked to again contain any potential spread of infection, we're absolutely going to play and enjoy and learn across age groups, across pods, and we're just going to do it in the way we've all been figuring out how to be with the people that we love, for this last year. We're going to do it outside, we're going to do it with masks, and do it with distance. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I just want to be really clear. Many opportunities to continue to be with people beyond your bunk and beyond your pod, but to have a safe structure and to be able to pull this off together, we have to rely, on this pod structure. We also use the language arrival period, and I'm going to turn the light on in my office. That got darker in the last couple of minutes. We use the language arrival period sort of loosely. This is from the moment folks arrive through what we imagine will be at least a first testing period that will likely be around 5 days in, but could be slightly different. Basically meaning we're going to have particular ways of functioning for some time, with the hope then of scaling and adjusting and becoming more flexible, but without being able to make promises about exactly what and when that will be. Okay, thank you, Randy. Next page. Okay, so at this point, most of you are familiar with this. There might be some folks who haven't registered yet or considering registering, or have and still have questions. Just wanted to take a step back and remind folks that we did make a lot of significant changes to the basic structure of the summer, from 2 3.5-week sessions to 1 5-week session. As you'll probably understand from hearing our plan, we did that to create the strongest possible foundation for all of these different mitigation strategies. We know it's imperfect, but we did our very best to reconcile a variety of different needs, integrate the survey information that we received from so many of you. You can see here some of the specific benefits of this structure without my reading them all off. One that I didn't include here is that we moved the session a week later, and that's so that we, I think in almost every case, will not conflict with school, so that we won't be pulling folks out of school, and also we hopefully have a little bit of room after school ends to ask families and campers, to behave in particular ways leading up to coming to camp. So in addition to starting a little bit later, having longer experiences for our older campers, her chanichimot, who we heard were hungry for that after a missed year, and just having, to the extent that more of the camp experience will be with your age group, not all of it, but more of it. We want that group to be big and full and robust and diverse, and we know that moving to 1 session was more likely, was going to create that for our community. Happy to answer more questions about it, and we will share these slides, so you can look at them later as well. Next one, please. And again, thanks to everybody for just being flexible and curious, as we switch things up. It was a big switch. but we know your understanding of us, of working to make it work for everybody. And one of the big things that we were trying to do is both balance all of the health safety pieces, the social pieces, and also create an opportunity for as many kids as possible to come to Tufts. So all those things sort of at play. Okay, pre-camp arrival. So I've kind of alluded to this, and some of this is still in the works, but we're going to give you sort of the high level information. One of the most important things that we can do is to do everything in our power to make sure that folks are coming to camp healthy and safe and without COVID. So there are pre-programmed behaviors we're going to ask of everyone. You know, I've talked to a lot of camp peers, and we talk about, you know, a culture of compliance and a social contract, and it feels like this piece is going to be so easy for Camp Tavour and the Camp Tavour community. We constantly talk about thinking about one another and the broader community. And I just know from the conversations I've had with so many of you, everyone's bought in. Folks are willing to do what's necessary to get folks to camp safely and to have a healthy summer. We're going to get more specific about what we're going to ask of folks. We know everyone's differently positioned to be able to, you know, limit what their behaviors look like in the few days before camp or the week before camp, but we're going to do our best. We're going to start with the baseline of the CDC recommendations, and you will likely hear from us in the coming months about more specifics, you know, to the point of several days or a week of limiting, you know, limiting interaction to people just in your household. We're going to also have health screenings be a part of that time. We know they're important. It's a great tool that we have for ensuring that folks are feeling good in their time leading up to camp. And if not, you know, making a plan based on that. So health screenings will be a part of that, and that will be communicated to you. And we'll use Camp in Touch as a way of collecting that information in a safe and secure way. And then testing will also be a part of it. Right now, we are thinking that all campers will need to provide documentation of a negative PCR test within a short period of time, likely 3 days. And we'll, of course, be in touch with people as we get deeper in and have more specifics. Next slide. Thanks, Amy. Okay, went to the wrong one. Okay, Randy, is there one before that? Okay, cool. So transportation, also a work in progress. What we understand is that the healthiest option with the fewest variables is for our families to drop kids off at camp. In general, we know that's a lift. We obviously have families coming from very different places, easier for some of us than others. Right now, that's where we are as far as what our plan is. We're talking as a health team about other options, including the possibility of a bus home at the end of the summer once we've had the arrival period, we've been together. We've possibly scaled our pods, but if the goal is to have those pods as our baseline sort of structure for health and safety, you know, it's important that we limit exposure in that time coming to camp. So right now, family drop off and pick up, if you can plan your schedules around that, we will likely slightly stagger the times for that to ensure that it's smooth. We might use our friends at Norton Elementary School and their lovely parking lot to help with this. And let us know, you know, if that is proving to be something you can't imagine making work, let us know. We want to be your partners in figuring it out. Entering the bubble. So we talked a little bit about this, you know, this is just, we're going to be enormously intentional about who's coming in at Camp Duckworth this summer. And so that's vendors, that's staff, that's guests. And we're going to be relying on one another to create extraordinary programming as we always do. And we're excited for the challenge of really relying on one another and relying less on some of the outside resources that sometimes we call upon. Bunks and cabins we talked about, so I think we can kind of cruise through that, except to say, and I didn't mention it previously, that for those of you very familiar with our site, you may know that we're likely going to change how we use bathrooms. We typically share bathrooms sort of across a couple different age groups, and they're kind of available, you know, in general to the community, and that's going to be adjusted. So that's going to be adjusted by staggering use times and also likely bringing in and supplementing the bath houses that we have available with some very lovely bathroom trailers that we're looking into to really maintain the integrity of the pods. So we'll keep you posted, but we are very aware of the role that bathrooms will play in the structure for the summer. So we talked a bit about pods, just want to lift up again. Pods will be a very key and very important piece of this plan, and we'll be able to be with, learn with, play with, support our friends in other pods, our siblings and our cousins in other pods, and we'll just do the things we know to do that will be easier to do at camp than they have been in the rest of this year, which is to be outside together, wear masks, and be physically distant. And we know this has been a part of your lives over the last year, but especially in the months leading up to camp, you know, we're asking that you go above and beyond and really be talking about these key principles with your loved ones and with your chanichimot so that we're all on the same page when we get to camp together. Next slide, please. Okay, so I sort of mentioned that it's likely we will have that testing will play a role in maintaining health and safety once we're at camp together. The specifics of that we are still figuring out. One thing we know is that there will be a point in that first week where we'll do PCR testing of everybody at camp as sort of our first check on where we are, in addition to the daily screening and sort of checking in on the health of everybody present. And that will be sort of a point where we'll see where we are and we can make some decisions about scaling or combining pods. We will keep everyone posted. It's possible that rapid testing will also be a tool that we'll use, and we'll keep you posted as we get more of the specifics figured out about that. I do want to note, and for those of you who have young people who have chanichimot enrolled in Taste of Tavor, you know this. In general, we have one start date. I do have one exception to that, which is Taste of Tavor, that's going to start about 3.5 weeks into the summer. We've made that decision with a lot of intentionality. That group will be their own pod. They will enter and exit and be together. And this is our way of sort of doing our best to provide for the health and safety of the community, preserving the bubble, and creating opportunities for as many people to join us safely at Tavor as possible. So we're feeling excited and confident about the plan for integrating this second group into the summer. They will come a couple days after the other Ame Limot of the other elementary schoolers leave and be cared for by the same Sevet or counselors. And happy to answer more questions about that. And the last piece here is, I think in general, some of you know we generally are extremely flexible, happy to make it work if folks have to go home for weddings or whatever it is. And this year we just won't be able to, and we know you'll understand that, and we know that may bring challenge, and we just appreciate your understanding that we need to begin the experience together and end the experience together for this to work. Next page. All right, so big ideas here is just that, the structure of the day is going to change. We will definitely have different protocols and processes than we have had in the past, but that the core of the Tavor experience is going to be the same. And Maskiru is going to dig into that a bit more in a few slides. But as we've thought deeply about this and some of the other programming that's not going to be possible at some other programs, the core of Tavor is that we build together, we dream together, we imagine We're scrappy, and actually COVID's not going to change very much about what we have access to and how we create learning and how we create fun. It'll be structured differently, timing will be different, but we feel confident we're able to bring the Tavor experience to our community this summer and actually even lift it up in bigger, more powerful ways. Maski will talk about that. Meals and dining will be different, and we'll have things that, you know, we're going to feel some loss about as it relates to what has typically been sort of the vibe and culture of the Chedar Ochel, but also things that are gained, which is that we're always going to eat with our cohort or our pod, and that's a really wonderful, comforting experience for many people to sort of know who you get to sit with and know who you're going to be cared for and know where to go. So, you know, we're choosing to see the beauty and the opportunity and the changes that we're making. We're going to eat as often as possible outside, set up an outdoor dining space. So we have double the amount of space for people to spread out and eat safely with their pod. Plenty of space and, you know, open windows and fans on in the Chedar Ochel at all times. So we're feeling very confident about how we're adapting our meal planning, hoping to still all be able to eat at the same time, just in 2 different spaces. It's possible that we'll have to rely on staggered meal times, and we'll make a call about that in the coming weeks. All right, so the MARP will continue to be, you know, a key piece of the foundation of our health and safety plan that we're adapting our protocols for the summer. One key change that people can look forward to is that we're going to bring anything that can be outside of the MARP. So we're going to have a triage area outside of the MARP for med call and probably a variety of other things. And of course, you know, the staff will be taking extra precautions, and we'll have a separate quarantine area set up, you know, for campers who are, you know, exhibiting symptoms associated with COVID-19. And again, we have Donna Newmark here who can answer more questions about that, some of which we're still developing. But we're feeling really grateful to be able to rely on our seasoned and passionate, you know, MARP staff this summer. And then the last piece about camp life that I want to highlight, because I know I've heard from many of you, is really the one exception that we're talking about as far as outside trips this summer are our extended camping trips. The health team and I have been talking, we've talked with other camps, and we believe we can have those extended wilderness trips safely by having those campers not actually engage with anybody else outside of the pod. Obviously, if we get information that leads us to believe we can't do this safely, we won't. But right now we are planning extended trips for our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And the younger Shchavo will have fun, engaging, fabulous camping, one-night camping trips at Tavor. We're gonna create some new camping areas on site, gonna dig in, get creative, and then they'll be ready for the extended trips down the line. All right, cleaning, I'll let you kind of look through the bullets. But, you know, I think in some ways this is a thing that we learned a ton about since last summer. We know that in general, COVID doesn't, you know, get transferred through surfaces. So it's nice to know that, and still, you know, this provides us an opportunity to go above and beyond. So you can read a little bit about some of the changes. Something I want to lift up is that we are going to close down our drinking fountains and replace them with bottle filling stations. You know, the kinds of things that we think are going to serve the Tavor community, not just this summer, but well into the future. So feel free to take a look. Something else you'll want to note is we're going to ask folks to bring their own masks, but we're also going to make sure to prioritize having laundry for just masks available on site in a regular structure. So in addition to bringing masks, we want you to bring those mesh laundry bags so we can easily keep them together, wash them when needed, and get them back to people in a timely way. This is where we are with our plans for in the event of a positive test. If a camper has a positive test before the summer, that negative PCR test we were talking about requiring, it certainly will present some challenges as far as figuring out how to proceed in welcoming that camper to camp, but it's not impossible. We're going to follow CDC guidelines and we're going to do what we can. So we will sort of cross that bridge together if that's the situation. If a camper tests positive once at camp, we know that we will isolate that camper in a safe way and wait for them to be picked up. Right now, that was the guidance from summer 2020 as far as what the state required to happen if there was somebody who tested positive. So we're waiting on state guidance on if there's more flexibility, but that's where we're landing and we're sort of building from here. And then we would also separate the members of the pod of that same camper for screening, for testing, but to continue to provide, camp experiences. The likelihood is that people will continue to feel good, be able to enjoy camp. But what's important is that we don't create additional conditions of exposure with anybody else. And that's the plan. That's how we're building our structure. So that's sort of our plan, and we'll proceed from there. Way more details to come, and we'll communicate all of that soon. And here's what we're thinking as far as a refund policy. I know folks may be thinking about it, which is that we would prorate tuition, we would put it towards next summer, and if your Chanichol is graduating, it would be refunded. We understand it will be extremely difficult situation if this happens and don't want finances to have to be an additional piece of that. As I sort of mentioned, in the work to create our bubble, we will not have visitors. We won't have a visitors day, camp tours, special events. And we recognize that is a programming loss and a connection loss. Randy, Maski-Root, and I are talking about how we can leverage the technology that we do have, which is not always as robust as we'd like in Three Rivers, to bring the camp experience to you. So we'll more about that in the weeks and months to come. And another just piece about communications in the bubble is we're going to follow suit with a lot of other camps that have chosen to simplify as it relates to packages this summer. And not allow packages and not allow any food. It just adds additional layers of complexity when we're really trying to have very clear plans for where and how we eat together. And your partnership in this will be really important for us. So thank you for understanding. And we will make exceptions for birthday packages, and we can talk about that if that's relevant to you. Okay, my last bullet. Happy to kick it over. We know this has been an extraordinarily trying year for so many of us, for all of us in different ways. And many of you know that we've had a part-time social worker at Tavor over the last few years. We're excited to be scaling that. We were awarded a grant to be able to bring on a full-time mental health professional for the next several years and have an institutional commitment to continuing that beyond the grant period. And so we're excited to just have greater capacity, have an additional partner to Maski-Root and Sevet and the rest of the staff in ensuring the health and wellness and comfort and support for all of our Chanichimot, our campers, as well as our Sevet. So, without saying too much about that, want to move us along. If you have questions about that, let me know. But we're excited for this sort of new phase. Something fun that kind of came out of, thinking about new opportunities for programming is that we're going to have a fishing program this summer. We're partnering with Project Fish. And that's kind of just a new skill. We're eager to think about what are things that folks have asked about over the years, what are opportunities we have by the things that are needing to change, and fishing is one of those things. So that's, I'm sure, going to bring a lot of joy to some of you, and some of you are like, move on to the next bullet. So there's that. And now I'm going to pass it over to Randy to talk a little bit about some other things we have going on.
Thank you. Take a breath. You've earned it. Oh my goodness. Hi, everybody. So good to see a lot of you. I'm looking at a lot of names on a lot of faces. I miss your faces, and I can't wait to see and talk to you guys throughout the summer. So we have really amazing opportunities right now to hopefully bring some new families into Tavor. We have been awarded a grant through the Legacy Foundation, and that's going to let us bring new campers from small Jewish communities under 10,000 people to camp with a huge benefit of $1,500 off tuition this year and a guaranteed $1,500 off tuition next year. And I realize that what I have here right now are a lot of pre-existing families, but if you know families who could take advantage of it, we also have the Refer a Friend program in which you would get $180, and it's a nice chip off. Anyway, it's a really great opportunity to reach out to those small communities like in Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids and some of the other areas on this list where they don't have a lot of opportunity to immerse themselves in Jewish culture. So we're really looking forward to that. And we have all that information on our website. We also have the Refer a Friend information on the website with all the forms. And yeah, so also we have monthly webinars that we're holding, these virtual open houses for new families or for any families who'd like to reacquaint themselves with Camp Tavor. You can find that information on our website anytime. I relist them on the homepage with the URLs and sometimes links that work. If they don't, you can email me, you know I'll get them for you. And that's really what we have working as far as that. Yeah, I have hopes for some better internet service to be able to bring you guys some better quality internet from camp, at least for me, so you can see what your kids are up to. But I don't want to get anyone's hopes up yet, just everybody fingers crossed. And hopefully that'll work. So thank you for my time, and I look forward to communicating with you all in the future. Quick answer, because someone asked and I can answer that. Yes, East Lansing is absolutely part of our small communities. On our website, you'll be able to find the small communities incentive, and there will be an entire list of eligible cities. That list is growing all the time. So as we find more communities, we put them on there. If you have recommendations of some small cities that you think we might be able to reach, please let me know. I am eager to reach out to as many communities as I can find. Amit, are you next? No, Ariel, you're next.
I'm actually going to start us off going as me and Team Techni, me and Noam are going to share a little bit about how we're kind of reimagining the the daily schedule to try to best utilize these new kind of like potting systems, but also to like hold the integrity of the activities and programming at Tavor that we know and love. And so just a couple examples, because swimming is like a big thing we love at camp. We have the chof, we have the brecha. We really want to be able to utilize those spaces. And because with potting, that is an unmasked activity, we're going to have to allow for more times of the day for swimming, which means there will be kind of more, it'll have to open up more time in the day to maybe utilize like the chava or like work with our like great specialists that we'll have for like the chava and the chimu and the bedo, all these like art, music, farming structures to be able to really kind of utilize and provide the chanechim out with even more kind of opportunities than we may have even had in past summers. And yeah, just really we've been going through the Luzim for weekdays, Fridays, Saturdays. We're really kind of going through and making sure that every little aspect of camp, every little structure, like thinking through supplies and bedtime and all these different things to make sure that they can work with this new kind of potting, but also to like rethink through a bunch of different things, be like, oh, can we actually make that better? Like, oh, if we can't do this, then like, can we add this new time of day where we all chill and do yoga? Maybe like just kind of thinking through what is really going to be like best for Tavor. I'll pass on to Noam if he has anything to add.
I think you covered all the bases, and I actually have to go catch a bus, but
Okay, then I'm excited to bring us to our next bullet point, which is to talk about our educational programming this summer. I'm excited to announce our theme of the summer, which is Spark. And if you want to do the hand motion associated with it, it's this, Spark. Like all good themes, it is both a verb and a noun, so much potential for puns and related bits. And it's just a really important year, I know, to continue our really important and radical education. And I'm so excited to continue to spark wonder and joy and a revolutionary spirit in everyone at the Tabor community. And I'm also excited to show this beautiful artwork made by Eliana Wasserwoman, which will be on a t-shirt or maybe some pajamas in the near future.
Ooh, very beautiful. And then I'll just wrap up by saying that we're reaching the end of our process of hiring Sevet, our summer staff for the summer, and really, really pleased to say that we have such a lovely, close-knit community that is ready to come back and work. And I know some summer camps are having trouble staffing their summer, and I'm so proud to say we are not really. That staff is excited to come. We're excited to work together and build this new summer with a lot of new opportunities. So I'm really excited about that. And we already have a great Sevet started with our Mosque route, and check the Instagram for Sevet Madat's reveal in the next few days. So very exciting. Pass it off to Amit.
All right. So actually to Randy, we're going to pause now and have about 10 minutes to get through some of the questions you've sent. And if we do not have time to get to everything, we will absolutely use them as a guide to update our website and be in touch with people. So, and we will have another one of these in another 4 to 6 weeks or so when we have more to share.
So great. So one of the first questions that came in was a question about the Madats, and will they be placed with campers or in their own age group?
Yeah, so our thinking now is that the Madats will be their own pod, that absolutely we will, and we have already created and been thinking about new ways to add leadership development opportunities to the Madats program, and opportunities for the Madats to absolutely play a key role as educators and mentors and support for Hanifimot campers, which we know is critical. And it's so important that they have a group experience. And if they were in a bunch of different pods, that would be harder to pull off. So we're prioritizing their group experience. We know we can layer on the leadership development experiences. And because it's one session, that's where we are right now.
Okay, a question here. Will all parents be informed if there is a positive test?
You know, our health team has not formalized this yet. Donna Schnazi, do you have particular insights you want to offer here? We will certainly be in touch with people as we formalize and make a decision about this. But Dr. Donna, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I think that's a great question. We really prioritize transparency and communication. I think we will make, we will provide the guidelines and let you know ahead of time when you will be notified, but certainly as it would relate to your child, we will certainly make sure to be transparent in communication. I can't say for sure that it would be entire Machaneh would be notified, but we're still working that piece out.
Okay, another question is, where is the nearest hospital? The second part was about swimming, but I think that Jane answered that very well. So the question is, where is the nearest hospital?
Yeah, well, and I'm just going to pass it to Donna Newmark, who has spent years, coordinating our relationship with local healthcare and can speak to that question and maybe a little bit more about who we generally partner with in town.
Hi, everybody. There is a hospital in Three Rivers. We have used their emergency room a few times each summer. There's some reason that we need to bring kids over to the local healthcare providers. So we have used the emergency room. There's also a urgent care that has not been that successful, so I don't think we're going to use them. But there was a primary care office that we partnered with a lot 2 summers ago that were very responsive, and it's located right next to the hospital, and they were really great for seeing our kids. So I think we'll use those every summer. It's kind of, we commit with these agencies. We contact them and let them know, introduce the MARP staff, the MARP staff, and we do that. If anybody has any orthodontic emergencies, we don't deal with those. But we have dealt with the local healthcare providers successfully, and we've gotten to know which urgent cares are good and which aren't. We always communicate with parents before taking kids out of camp for emergent care, unless it's a 911 emergency.
So Donna, just a follow up to that question would be, have we assessed the capacity rates of the hospital in the small community?
I have not done that yet. I think that that will be part of what we need to do as the summer's getting a bit closer. I don't know the status of, I have not personally looked into the status of COVID or the hospital in the city. I mean, in the town, or I don't know if it's a city or a town, in Three Rivers. And we've always had, we've had very few times where it's a dire emergency at camp. We've had, over the past, we have had kids that have had to go to other emergency rooms when they're outside of camp. But yeah, and we communicate. When I'm there as the nurse, we also have our health team, our doctors who help to advise us as well. Our, Dr. Donna will be our advisor now. Starting this summer. So yeah, we always make these decisions with the parents and the local resources.
Thank you. I am not a doctor, but I do live in the area, and I can also let parents know there are 2 excellent hospitals just a half hour away from camp. It's Bronson and Borges, which are world-class facilities. And I know that they've done really well at taking care of things in our neighborhood. So there's benefit of living here. I will also say that's all of our questions. So we don't really have many questions. One other thing is, anyone wanted to know if these questions or this will be posted? Yes. This video will be on the website on the COVID health plan resource that I emailed out yesterday, which you can also find in our website under summer programs.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your evenings with us, for trusting us and partnering with us for this summer. I mean, we do not take this lightly. This is an extraordinary honor to create this experience for your kids and your families. And we're just very grateful to you, very excited to be doing this, very excited for the team we have coordinating this. Yeah, and thank you. So thanks to all the staff who shared and answered questions and presented, and thanks to all the families. And Randy will be in touch when we are going to offer another space. Feel free to be in touch with us via email or phone in the meantime. All right, good night.